people my age say that they were born in the wrong generation, and I just completely disagree. I am honestly astonished in the ways that we have evolved images and how we use them to construct memories, something to remember forever. A moment just captured at the perfect moment. In my opinion, fashion is pretty cool right now, and I really like taking these aesthetic pictures with my generation's outfits. I feel like it's really easy to model what I'm going for right now. And my generation is full of self-explorers. All the generations before us were just so busy exploring space and Earth and the ocean, learning how to fly, how to drive, how to make an economy. But we're just at a point now where that's done. We're peaking right now at crazy new levels of technology and just in general like views on the world and how we live. I think it is time to slow down and find ourselves, discover more about ourselves. I believe that self-expression and self-love are the biggest cure for your soul. Humans were just naturally meant to bond and create and share, which is why we have so much art in the world. Through literature, paintings, sculptures, films, photo, anything in this realm is just telling stories and connecting with people, trying to convey certain emotions for the viewer or for the reader or whoever the audience may be.
You make me feel like a fool, waiting for you.
So, fun fact about me is that I actually extremely love the feeling of nostalgia. I can never get enough of it. It's always the best when it's a surprising nostalgia. You weren't expecting, like you weren't looking out to feel nostalgia. One day you're just walking down the road and you see a McDonald's that looks like the old building, from like 2008 era. That's nostalgic. Maybe you weren't expecting that. It just fills my brain with dopamine. And because of this, I want to incorporate nostalgia into my photographs. And I feel like a subtle way that I can keep doing this, as I have been, is incorporating grain aesthetic. Now, I've heard a lot of people get pissed at me because they're saying that, like, hey, dude, like, grain is literally for old pictures, and, like, we have the technology to not have grain anymore. And that's true. We definitely have the ability to take much cleaner pictures that aren't so muddy and filled with noise. But because of this specific decision to influence people to feel like they're back in the old days, I don't do this grain aesthetic on my photographs for a cleaner image. I do it to throw back your mind to when we were younger, like a decade ago, 2 decades ago. And I'm a 2000 baby, so I only had the 90s for reference growing up. Am I like technically a 90s baby? I wouldn't say technically, but I would say that a lot of my childhood was rooted in 90s culture, which is why I love this shit so much. I love old TVs with static that you can like feel on the screen as you get closer, VHS tapes, burning CDs on QuickTime, and Scholastic book fairs. I love Cartoon Network. Old Cartoon Network was my favorite, and I super love older shows, even older than that, like the original 70s Scooby-Doo, and of course not to mention the grainy pictures. I feel like this aesthetic just fits what I'm going for currently. And there's a lot of pictures out there that when you take it, some people may feel, man, that was like the perfect moment to take this. So I want to root my pictures in that feeling. This was like the perfect time to be taking this picture. So you guys might be wondering what this rant is all about. Why am I telling you about my childhood and what that means to my photography? Well, for one, as we mentioned in last episode, our first episode of the show, this is about self-discovery, and I can't take good quality pictures if I don't know why I'm taking them, or who I am, or what that means for my photography. Secondly, today, we're going to tackle a big topic. This is something that, it's definitely a big topic for episode 2, especially if you're just picking up a camera, but I think it's probably the best place to put this, and we're talking about composition. Composition within photography or filming is pretty simple. These are the techniques and tools that cameramen and camerawomen use in order to balance elements in their shot. So, I have some examples from my end, and I have some examples from people I aspire to take pictures like. These people, I will have them linked below, and I will have their names right up on the screen as we're showing them. And you can find them all on Instagram, but they just take such beautiful, beautiful images, and it makes me feel alive looking at their art and what they can take through their lens. So we're going to talk a little bit about my art today. We're going to talk a little bit about someone else's art today, and then we're going to go take some pictures and talk about why I made certain decisions on my photo shoots. So we're going to take a look at pictures I've taken in like the last year, last 6 months, something like that, something pretty narrow. Okay, so I picked out some pictures that I've taken, and we're going to super simplify this into a couple of categories. So composition. I feel like a first great one to go with is framing. So I have my pictures pulled up right here, so excuse me if I'm just kind of darting back and forth while I'm talking, but this picture is one of my favorites that I've taken recently, of nature at least. I'm a portrait photographer. I mostly take pictures of people, but I feel like you can't properly tell a story without taking shots of what's around you and what's going on. So I like to take pictures on the side of context. So we were on a walk in the woods on this day, and the river was just running real strong, and it was beautiful, and I wanted to capture the energy of this water rushing through. And so it seemed just really boring just taking a picture, you know, like by the riverbed. So what I did was I went up the hill and I framed it in some leaves to give it some texture, to give it some context as to where we are, how beautiful and serene it was in this location. So framing is pretty simple. You find a subject like the river, and then you surround it in whatever way you want. With leaves, you could shoot through the bars of a fence, you could frame people with doorways or with buildings, and the options are limitless. So framing is a really awesome technique, and we're going to kind of blow through these just because there's a lot to cover. And I feel like some of these compositional references that you can use, like framing, some of these guidelines, are not super hard to grasp. So we're not going to like take too much time on everything. Here's another really good example of framing. I'm using someone's face, a car, and the inside of the roof of our car to frame this building. Clearly, we are not focusing on the face or the ceiling or the car because it's not even totally in frame. Obviously, the center of focus is what's in the middle, surrounded by all of these elements, and that is the building, the Capitol building of Salt Lake City. Okay, here's another really basic one, and this is centering your composition. So what you're doing here is just finding a subject and just putting it smack dab in the middle of the picture. And that's about it. It's not complicated outside of that. I have another one right here. Here, the center of my picture is the metal on top of this building that says Walker on it. And we're using these leaves to center and help frame our subject, which is the Walker building. But we can also talk about the rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds is 9 boxes that goes over your frame. For this picture, I use the rule of thirds on my phone and on my camera when I take pictures, and so I used that in this example to help center my subject even more. There are a lot of compositional frames that you can use. I don't know what it's called, like a chart or like an overlay that you can put on your camera, like a little map. Here's another good example with the rule of thirds. So with the rule of thirds, it helps to isolate a subject in a certain box, in a certain frame, or you can use it to help center your subject in frame. And another thing is that if you line up your subjects on dots, on these intersects, then it also helps make your picture look balanced. And so that's what I was going for here, with these 2 dots, isolating my subjects in the frame. I do want to credit this next one for James Popsis, and I will link him down below for this idea of the main character and side character. I watched this video a couple of weeks ago, and it really helped me think about how I would like to take pictures in the future. We're going to use this picture as an example, and what happened here is we have just another side picture for context of where we are. So we have this beautiful frame of sky and I guess some like electric pole or something. I don't really know what it is. If we overlay this with a rule of third, it would stay in the middle. It would be center. But on top of that, we have no framing, no real framing, except for these trees down here. And so the idea for this main character, side character, was that make the main character stand out by adding a side character to view. And so I use these trees to kind of accentuate the positioning of this electric pole thing. So this here is the golden spiral. This one is one of the more complicated ones, and you can do all sorts of research on it, but this is just an example of what it looks like when you're taking pictures. Here are some pictures from other artists that really inspired me to take better pictures. So the first is Ronnie Garcia. I just love this picture from the lighting, just how crisp it makes her skin, and the way that they edited it with the aluminum, just kind of making this negative space and isolating our subject. Next is Brian Adam C. He's on YouTube as Brian Adam Castillo, I'm pretty sure, but you can check him out on Instagram too. And here you can see by using a shallow depth of field and centering, just like we did in the other photograph earlier, we have a beautifully crisp photograph isolating our subject, and it just looks really good. And I just love the moods that he creates, and he makes music as well for his art, and I just love it. Alright, next we have Aaron Jam. I just really loved this picture that they took because it gave me that aesthetic, that feeling and vibe of the picture that I really want to take someday. Of just that old, gritty, but clean photograph. Something that just feels vintage and muddied, but isn't, you know? Here's Esther Cannon. I take a lot of my inspiration from my candid photography from Esther's Cannon. She does like a lot of vacationing with her boyfriend and her friends and things, and so she takes a lot of pictures that are intentional and then a lot of in-the-moment photos, and I felt like that was just genius. To give you the context of the surroundings and the activities that you guys are doing, but to get those perfectly captured moments, those feelings of that was the right moment to take a picture. I feel like candids are very easy to take because they naturally fall into that category most of the time. Here we have Kai Boet, and this picture just blew me away. I just love the way this makes me feel, the cool tones. Something I have started to learn as of late is when you're taking pictures, the colors don't have to be in your face punching you. Some of them can just be this beautiful muted smoky blue, and it just works. And just making them in frame and having no other background context to really isolate our subjects and only make it about them. This is probably my favorite photographer I've been following lately, and again, all of these will be linked below, but this is Photo Destruction on Instagram, and she takes some of the most beautiful, breathtaking pictures I have ever seen in the portrait photography world. I just absolutely love the feeling that this conveys, and just I don't know how she's doing this, but the way that she edits the skin and makes it look so like painted yet lifelike, it's just so beautiful and entrancing, and I think her pictures are some of the best I've ever seen. And so she's a huge inspiration for me. So if you guys want to, go check out Photo Destruction. I promise you guys won't regret it. So those are just some artists that I saw that took some pictures recently that really piqued my interest, and I just wanted to share with you guys some people that are working hard and making beautiful art, and that if you guys just need something on Instagram to scroll through and just need some inspiration every once in a while, these are some of the perfect people to get it from. So now that we have a good grasp as to what composition is and some examples of what it may look like and how to incorporate it into your films and photography, I'm going to go out and take some pictures. This week, when I first started making this film, I only planned to do a single photo shoot, and it was only going to be 10 minutes across the street, but I ended up meeting a lot of people, and a lot of people had a lot of free time recently, so I actually went on like 3 or 4 photo shoots. So we're going to talk about all these different photo shoots I went on, and I hope I can give you guys a peek inside my head as to what I'm thinking when I'm taking these pictures, and we'll go through them one by one. One thought that I've been entertaining lately for this photo shoot was the composition of the human body. And what I mean by this is that I almost always take pictures of people's heads, as you guys can see. Like, people are almost always like half in frame or full in frame with their head in the picture. So something I wanted to try different this time was maybe frame just the torso, or maybe just use someone's legs or feet for the subject matter. I feel like using the head as the subject matter every single time can get boring really fast, and I feel like I just needed to spice up my pictures a little bit by not doing that. Sure, I have pictures of like the river and the Capitol building, but those are just separate pictures on their own. I want to try taking a picture of a person where their head and their eyes and their mouth are not the subject. So we're going to try and go do that while I go take pictures. I want to try and mess around with visuals. I want to take pictures of fire. I want to try and take some pictures in low light and see if I can mess around with the camera settings to get crisper pictures when it's a lot harder. And I prepare myself for darker nights where I have limited lighting. Guys, we're back in the studio, and we came back from the picture hunt. I got some good pictures, I think. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. We're just gonna go over some of the pictures I just took and how we feel about it. Let's talk about the torso picture first. This one I was really proud of. It took a lot of modeling, telling people where to put their hands and how to grab things and where to center their focus. It was just a lot of fun directing multiple people, which I don't think I've really done before. The other thing that was really fun was just trying to take a picture that was not about the person's head or their mouth or their eyes, and just getting a different story out of someone's body. And this was just really fun, just something like really kind of like steamy and interesting and just like weird. I like this occult, creepy, eerie, just strange, trippy kind of vibe. And sometimes a picture doesn't need a story behind it, but just an emotion. And that's what I was trying to capture with this picture. Does it make you feel loved, wanted? Does it make you feel restricted and restrained? It's up to interpret, but I felt like this made me feel something, and so I went for it. Now, the other picture I took that was not of the person's head was this one right here. So this picture I know has two heads in it, but that's not really the subject. This wasn't really like a story either. This was also just conveying an emotion. And for me, I feel like this just felt lonely and tired. Just knowing that there's someone up there and they're just isolated and these two people are just kind of doing their own thing next to them. I don't know. I liked the picture a lot. I really loved it. And the other thing that I really admired about this editing was how clear the image came out. I was really proud of the skin, and the eyes just popped out just the right amount. The shoes are a beautiful color and everything has its own tint. So everything just came out the way, even better than I was imagining in my head. So I'm glad I took those pictures as well. We have this one right here, which is my buddy Liam holding up a half heart that we lit on fire. And this one was the first picture I edited from the pack. So what I loved so much about this one was that I got to mess around with the foreground and background and darken and lighten things, put fake lighting on Liam's face to really sell the effect that this fire is bright and warm. And we get clear skin, we can see this emotion of a broken heart, and I loved the feeling of it. So this was a picture I was really proud to take as well. And so I feel like this is a type of composition that maybe doesn't have a name yet, but like an emotional composition. Because there is such thing as like a context composition where you're taking pictures around the subject being like a political stance. So I feel like a great composition could also be the emotion that the picture just gives you without anything else. So here's these two pictures matched up together of Liam just smoking a cigarette on a table, and I thought that turned out really great too. Just this feeling of boredom and like loneliness, just doing your own thing. So I really enjoyed taking this photo shoot. Then the other one that we're going to talk about is his roommate, Liam's roommate, RJ. Alright, so we took plenty of pictures in this album, but let's go over some of these here. Here's a shot of RJ from the balcony of his apartment complex, and we just wanted this really cool framing of the two bars, these black bars just isolating him. We also have this beauty right here of RJ in front of this gross, rusted black and red piece of metal that was just out in their courtyard. So I photoshopped it to be much cooler and blue and make him warmer and get this beautiful like coloring situation of like this teal and orange kind of look. Composition is not a science. It's not something that you can just get right every time, or like you can get lucky with it, you know? But I feel like through this experience, I was trying to use normal guidelines like the rule of thirds and things like that to make pictures of RJ sitting down on a bench with the light glowing behind him. Mostly what guided my composition was not even the elements and where they were, but really the emotion coming from the picture. And so I felt that leading with my heart rather than my mind was a better way to take a picture, but to not abandon the rules, because obviously you get some cool stuff like RJ on a balcony looking off in the distance about to die, you know, if he's not careful. So I'm glad RJ's okay. But this was just really fun and just a very experimental trip that we got to take, these two little photo shoots. And I hope that you guys could learn something about composition. And I know I definitely learned a lot about how I'm going to take pictures in the future and like what it means to find composition for me. When you're making art, I feel like it's so important to remember why you're doing this even before you start the photo shoot. For me, this was purely experimental. I just wanted to take some fun pictures of random things and just see how I could handle the camera settings and the composition behind it. Now, I've been doing camera work for about 8 years, almost 9 years. And so I'm not an expert. I would not call myself an expert, but I would say I know my way around a camera. I know what I'm doing at least. Now I just need this space to learn and grow and express myself. And I feel like by learning through photography, I can really learn about life and what that means for me. So if you guys made it all the way to the end, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a pleasure. If you guys like this kind of content, go ahead, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you know when we get more episodes with this cool shit in it. So again, thank you guys for watching. I hope I was able to entertain you and teach you guys something new. And I'll see you guys in the next episode of VideoChild. Peace out.